Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, where we are inspiring you to tap into your power to manifest the happiness, success, and fulfillment that you desire. I am your host, Niajae, the Upper Limit Coach. I am here to dismantle your limiting beliefs and remove the blocks so you can confidently live your life's purpose, because life is meant to be abundant. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning into the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? I want you to take a moment and check in. Ask yourself how you're feeling. How are you feeling today? I am feeling fabulous, and I'm really excited about today's episode. But before we dive into today's topic, I just want to send some gratitude to my coaching clients as I continue to coach people and they resonate with lessons that I've learned through my own journey and my own transformation. It just lets me know that everything that I've gone through was for a reason. It's helped me be the woman that I am today. And it's also helped me show up and support people through their journey and their transformation. And also, I want to send gratitude to you, M&Ms, for listening, because knowing that these lessons are resonating with you and helping you through your transformational journey, it keeps me going. It keeps me in the arena wanting to fight to be the best version of myself so I can show up for you guys. So sending gratitude to my clients, sending gratitude to you. And I'm filled with gratitude today. I hope you feel it on your end. But let's dive into today's topic. Today we are talking about ego. I feel like I need a drum roll for that. So I'm not going to bash ego. Ego is something that we all have. So today we're going to dive into why we have it and how we can not allow our ego to interfere with the success and the happiness and the love that we desire. So let's dive in. All right, so the official definition of ego is the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious and is responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity. So that is the official definition of ego. But the way I understand it and the way I would explain it is a part of us that is designed to protect our inner child. So our inner child is that part of us that holds on to the things that we've experienced in our childhood or in our past, and our ego is designed to protect that. It's a defense mechanism that kicks in when there's like danger. So let's just say as a child you were teased because of your clothes. So now as an adult you are very sensitive to people making a comment about your clothes. So if as a child you were teased because of your clothes and you go to your partner and say, "Hey honey, how does this look?" and they don't say, "Oh, it looks amazing," it may hurt you a little deeper and your ego may kick in. And depending on where you are in your journey, you can either be really hurt or you can want to retaliate and have an attitude because they didn't provide the words of affirmation that you were craving in that moment. Does that make sense? So our ego is designed to kick in when there is some type of danger or threat to our inner child. That's how I understand ego. That's how I would break it down. So the first time I realized anything about ego, it probably was in my early 20s, and there was a female in my life that would always talk about people's nose. She would always make comments about like, "Oh, that person has a big nose," or "Oh, look at this person's nose." But in reality, I know because we were close that she didn't like her own nose. So not only is our ego designed to protect us, but our ego is an indication of our own personal triggers. That's powerful. So if you find yourself nitpicking or criticizing about something, it's because it's a trigger of your own. And one of the things that I found really powerful reading the book The Four Agreements, it says don't take anything personal, because usually when a person is criticizing you, it's their own stuff. So it speaks to that situation. She's criticizing other people's noses because she doesn't like her own nose. So really powerful thing to understand when a person is when a person is lashing out at you, it's their own stuff. It's their own triggers, their own unhealed stuff that they haven't worked through. And the same thing for us when we find ourselves nitpicking about stuff or getting offended or hurt about something, it's an unhealed part of us. So if someone said to me, let's just say someone said to me like, "Oh my god, you're fat," or something like that. Like I know I'm not fat. So that wouldn't even bother me because I'm like, okay, like you're tripping, you know? But if someone said to me something that is a trigger, let me let me think of something. People have said to me, "You're unrelatable," and this bothered me because I know in my own personal life that I've moved around a lot and I've always had to make like new friends, and I never had like a stable like set of friends over time. So when people say I'm unrelatable, it kind of bothers me because I know that, you know, maintaining friendships and relationships is something that I've had to work really hard on. I used to say I struggled with, but it's not a struggle. It's all a learning experience. So if that wasn't something that I know I'm dealing with in my life, it wouldn't bother me, but it does bother me because it's something that I've had to work through and I've had to heal from and rewrite my story around that. So when someone says you're unrelatable, it's like your ego, your subconscious is like danger, danger, danger to protect your inner child. So it kicks in and then you get defensive. You get defensive and you want to defend whatever it is that is being threatened, that part of you that's being threatened. So that's how I understand ego. And it's all about our triggers. It's all about our inner child. It's all about the unhealed part of us that the ego is trying to protect. And it's so powerful when you can identify it and realize this is why you're reacting this way. So I'll share another situation, and you guys know I always share my personal experience, so you know that I've experienced it and I've worked through it. So criticism is something that I would get really defensive about, and it's because I had a very critical mother. My mom could find something wrong with anything, and I love my mom, so I'm not like downing her because I appreciate how she was, because now it's contributed to the woman that I am today and I wouldn't change it. So just know I'm never like speaking bad about my mom. I'm simply sharing my experience. So she was very, very critical. Like nothing I did was ever good enough. And no matter how good of a situation was, she always found something wrong. And there's times I remembered like I was filming a music video of a song that actually was on a radio in Atlanta, and my mom watched it, or maybe it wasn't that specific video, it was a different video, but she watched one of my music videos that I was so proud of, like so proud of, and she said, "Oh, your bra strap was off your shoulder." And I'm like, it literally was like one of those moments where like dagger in the heart. Because I'm like, I am so proud of this creative piece of work that I just manifested, and you found something to criticize it about. So that was really, really painful for me. However, I will say that I find lessons in everything because now it's made me the sharp individual that I am, because I like make sure I dot every I and cross every T. So, you know, everything that we've experienced that may have been painful, we can flip it and use it to our advantage. And I was actually speaking to a client and I was saying, like, do you want to be the victim or do you want to be the hero in your story? So every situation that you felt like, oh, this hurt me, you have the option to be the victim or to be the hero. And so I've had to rewrite my story to make sure that I'm showing up as the hero in my story. And so another thing before I move on, I try not to get like too sidetracked, but this is really good. One thing that I've heard from Abraham Hicks recently, she says, ask yourself, is this perspective serving me. There's always different perspectives. The glass is half empty, the glass is half full. Are you the victim in this situation, or are you the hero in this situation? So ask yourself, is this perspective serving me? And if it's not, you can rewrite that story. So powerful, you guys, so powerful. Okay, so not to get off topic, criticism. So criticism was something that I definitely had to work on. It was a trigger of mine. If you didn't say, oh, this is good, this is great, like you're amazing, like, and you know what's funny? There's so many layers of it, because there are a lot of people that give me a ton of compliments, but it was almost like until I healed that inner child that was wanting my mom to tell me she was proud of me, nothing anyone said actually was good enough, because I always wanted that I'm proud of you, great job from my mom. And anyone else saying it wasn't good enough. I'm going to tell you how tricky our ego is, right? Our brains literally are programmed to focus on the things that cause us pain, because a million people could tell me, oh, you're doing great, I'm proud of you, like you're awesome, but it doesn't matter, because that one person isn't saying it. So what we have to do is retrain our brain to focus on the positive, because I have such amazing people in my life that tell me all the time that I'm amazing, but I wanted that one person. So I literally could not see anyone else telling it to me. This is how tricky our ego can be sometimes. So what would happen is, if someone offered me, and it could be constructive criticism. Now, let me just say, criticism, you have some people that are just hating. So you got to know when someone's just hating, and don't listen to it. Don't let it in your subconscious. But then you have people that genuinely care, that are offering constructive feedback, and not to get defensive when someone's offering constructive criticism. So I think it's important to address criticism, especially when it comes to the ego, because I think criticism is something that is one of the main things that causes the ego to kick into gear. So I personally feel like there are three different levels of someone giving you criticism, three different layers, however you want to say it. So we have people that are just hating. There are some people that are just, they're going to find something negative, because that's just how they are. They're just a negative person. And then you have people that are giving feedback from where they are. Where they are. If they can't see possibilities in their own life, it'll be really difficult for them to see possibilities in your life. Does that make sense? So let's just say someone came to me and said, I want to make $10 million. I'm going to be like, okay, like, how do you plan to do that? Because I've never made $10 million. We're just being really real here. I know there's a lot of coaches that are talking about helping people make 7 and 8 figures. But let's be real. If I could tell you how to make $10 million, I'd be doing it right now. Let's just be real about that. So, people can only give feedback from where they are. So sometimes when people give criticism or constructive criticism, it's an indication of where they are personally, in their own situation. So it's really important to know that when you are looking for feedback, make sure you go to someone who has the thing that you want, or has knowledge in that situation to be able to give you feedback. It's really funny how people receive feedback, business advice from people who don't own businesses. That's a whole nother story. Let me not get on that soapbox. Okay. So, so then the other level of it is people who just genuinely, okay, so let me back up. A person who's given feedback from where they are could have the best of intentions, But then you have people who may know that space and they genuinely want to help. So it's really important that when you are receiving feedback, or your ego is kicking into gear because someone has said something that you don't like, ask yourself, is there truth to this? Is this my ego, getting in the way from me really being able to receive this feedback? Is it constructive criticism? How do I feel about this? It's important it's important that you ask yourself these questions because there's so many layers of it. Sometimes people can give us really amazing advice or really amazing opportunities, but we are so blinded by our ego. I'll tell you another quick story. I started my first business at 19. I opened a dance studio, and there was a company that was doing dance classes out of a gym at the time. And when I opened my studio, they offered me an opportunity to be able to partner with them. And they offered me 50-50, but my ego kicked in and I was like 50-50 when I've done all of this work to like open up this facility, and 50-50 just does not seem fair to me. And fairness was something that was really important to me at the time. So I was like, no, total ego, total ego. I couldn't even see the opportunity they were presenting to me because my ego was so strong. And then that company wind up blowing up. And I kicked myself in the ass for years. I kicked myself in the ass for years because I was just like, I wasn't at a place to like really evaluate the situation. And I had so much ego because I was just like, no, like I did all this work to open this space. Like I'm not going to partner with someone and let them take 50%. And so I was focused on what they were trying to take from me rather than what I could gain from that partnership. So much knowledge and growth, you guys, so much knowledge and growth. So I'm just giving you random examples in my life where I had to check my ego and I had to really say, like, okay, my ego interfered with potential success, and ego interferes with connection and relationships. And so it's really important that we identify these things so our ego, which is meant to protect us, but doesn't interfere with the love and the success and the passion and the abundance that we desire. So, I have 5 ways to know that your ego controls your life. So, number 1, so and here's the thing, we all have been there. I've been there. And that's why this is important for me to talk about this, because I know firsthand that I've made some decisions from a place of ego and fear and scarcity and, unhealed parts of me that I look back now and I'm like, if I had a little more wisdom, if I had a little more self awareness, if I had a little more humility, things could have been different. And obviously, I don't want them to be different because those were lessons that I needed to learn to be the person that I am today. So if any of these things is something that you do, don't feel bad. It's amazing that you're aware of it so you can grow from it. Okay. So, number 1 is you get offended at every little thing. I know people like this. I've been there. I've been this person too. So, you get offended at every little thing. If you get offended of every little thing that someone says to you and Facebook and oh my God, there's so many people that are constantly offended on social media, constantly. There's some parts that you can say, okay, why does this bother me so bad? Why do I care so much? Great question to ask. Why does this bother me? Why do I care so much? Why do you care so much? Ask yourself that question and really sit in it and lean in and ask yourself and allow the answer to come. Sometimes we get offended and upset over the smallest little things that in a big scheme of things don't matter. Don't matter. There's a meme that says, like, if this doesn't matter in 5 years, like if this is not going to be important in 5 years, then why like stress over it? That's kind of how I feel. Like, if it's not something that is going to matter in 5 years, like the world is changing so rapidly. I would say if it's not going to matter in a year, then why even allow it to lower your vibration, right? So number 2 is the need to win and be right all the time. So always wanting to win or always comparing yourself to someone. Okay, so totally separate things. Let me address one at a time. The need to constantly win. Like, who are you in competition with? Who are you in competition with? You know, there was someone there was someone in my life that was always like will argue me down over the most ridiculous things, like a gnat and a fly kind of thing, like, oh, it's not a fly, it's a gnat, like the silliest things. And they were constantly like, you're wrong, I'm right. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like why is this such a big deal to you? You know, like, do you feel better because you're right because this is a fly and not a gnat? Like, the silliest things. So what I say about that need to always be right or to always win, you're actually losing. You know why you're losing? Because your ego is taking control and that relationship is becoming damaged. And this, I actually talked about this in my conscious relationship episode. If you have the need to prove your partner wrong, you already lost, because that it's damaging the relationship just to feed the ego. Do you want to damage your relationship just to feed your ego? This is where ego is controlling your life and your relationship. So sometimes it's not about winning or being right. It's about understanding each other. Understanding each other. So sometimes, and you know, if we're in a situation where we're upset, our ego definitely kicks in overdrive. So in friendships, relationships, it's really good to just walk away, calm down, check your ego, and then go back when you can have a mature, conscious conversation to hold space for understanding the other person. And I don't believe there's a right or wrong. There's perspectives. There's perspectives. If someone says, you know, oh, you did this, like, okay, let me understand why you feel that I was wrong in this situation. Let me understand where your head is at for you to have this perspective. We all have different perspectives, because someone could look at it and say, oh, well, you were wrong for doing this. But if this person has a reason for why they did it and you don't know the reason, then you have a limited perspective. So communication helps with that. Soundmetrics is a company designed to help you achieve well-being and peak performance with sound therapy. Crystalline Tibetan sound bowls are proven to help enhance cognitive functions, reduce stress and anxiety, and align the body for healing. Learn how it works and download a recording or guided meditation at thesoundmetrics.com and enjoy some deep relaxation. Number 3 is the need to be superior. Now, this is something I've definitely experienced. I used to have authority issues. Don't tell me what to do. Like, don't tell me what to do. Like, that is how, like, I had to always be in control. And I know that it's, again, coming from a place of my inner child. So many reasons why. Always feeling like I need to be in control, because as a child, I never felt like I had stability or control over my situations. And moving around a lot. So in 12 years of grade school, I went to 11 different schools in multiple different states. And so I didn't have control over that. Even if I wanted to stay, like, okay, I really like this school and I really like where we're at now, and I wanted to stay, I didn't have that option. So as an adult, I felt like I had to control everything in my life, but it's almost like the pendulum swung all the way to the opposite side and I was holding on too tight, too tight. So really knowing when, again, your ego is kicking in to protect that inner child. And so it's really, really amazing work when you really start to dissect these things in your life and your thought patterns. All right, number 4 is sarcasm. So a lot of people use sarcasm to cover up their unhealed parts of them. So it's kind of like a lot of comedians are the ones that are in the most pain. You know how, like, I think Kevin Hart says, laugh at my pain. it's a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism. And so sarcasm is, I think, a huge indicator of ego. When someone says something and they're being sarcastic or it's like kind of snarky, it's their ego kicking in to protect them. And it's kind of like if I'm going to give a really silly example, but if a guy asks a girl out or something like that, and he turns around and says, "Oh, fine, I didn't want you anyway," it's sarcasm because that ego's kicking in because his feelings are hurt because he feels rejected. So our egos literally are designed to protect us. And sarcasm is one way. So if you ask someone a question and they respond in a sarcastic way, it may be a mild indication of ego, but that's what it is. That's what it is. Someone who's always sarcastic, they're using humor to cover up things internally that are causing them pain. So a lot of times, especially people who use humor, like they'll have an insult and think that it's funny. I can't stand that personally. It's like, it's one thing that I'm just like, that's not funny. Like, you can't insult me and then expect me to laugh, you know? So a lot of times that's their own triggers. Like, it's usually stuff that they have to deal with internally, or it's something that triggers them. So I'm trying to think of an example, something people can use as an insult. I don't know. I'm not gonna go to that place. But if someone is like insulting you, but they're like, haha, I'm just playing. Why are you getting mad? I'm just playing with you. An insult is not a joke. And no one likes that. And there's some people that are okay with it. They tolerate it because maybe they're used to it. Maybe they had a bigger brother or a bigger sister that used to tease them and then laugh. So maybe they tolerate it. But if you are wanting to become a conscious, self-aware person, or you want to be in a conscious relationship or have conscious friendships, you have to understand that usually that is an indication of something unhealed. That is an indication of your ego kicking in, or an indication of triggers. So that self-awareness is really, really powerful. Number 5 is temper. So if you find yourself mad, like a lot, and you have a temper, I think the more inner work I do, the less I get angry at stuff. Like, I can't remember the last time I was angry. The fact that I have to even think like, okay, when was the last time you were angry? And I used to have a temper. I was born in New York, guys. I used to have a temper. I was born in New York. So like, I had a temper, and you don't want to see you don't want to see when I get mad. But I don't get mad anymore because I'm in this place of just this like inner peace of like everything's and do things bother me? Of course they bother me. I have days where I'm just like, okay, this bothers me, but like really getting angry, I don't get angry often. I won't say it never happens. It happens, but it happens less and less and less the more inner work that I do. And when you have this sense of inner peace where you understand and believe and trust that everything is working out for your greatest good, it causes you to get angry less. And then also knowing that if someone, for example, is lashing out at you, it's their own stuff. So the 4 agreements, don't take anything personal. If someone's lashing out at me, okay, understand that they may have some stuff going on. They have some triggers. They have some unhealed parts of them. And it's important that we don't internalize that. The 4 Agreements is a really amazing book. I always recommend it. It's an easy read, but that don't take it personal agreement, powerful, so powerful. Okay. So now we know some indications of ego controlling our lives. So how do we fix it? What do we do? So here's 5 ways to not let ego get in the way of the success, the relationships, and the happiness that you desire. Number 1 is self-awareness. I already said it. Self-awareness is so powerful. You have to be aware of your own triggers. You have to be aware of the things that are still causing you pain so you can heal them. The more you heal those broken parts of you,
the better you can show up in the world, the better you're going to feel. And unless you get offended about stuff, but it's deep and sometimes painful work. It's not a pretty process, but it is a beautiful process. And I used to say that like healing is not pretty because you're peeling some layers back to get to parts of you that you probably did not want to look at. Okay. But that's the only way to completely heal from it so you can step into your power. The word that's been coming up a lot is sovereignty. So you can step into your sovereignty, so you can step into the best version of yourself. A lot of people think, okay, I'm just going to tuck this away really, really deep, all the way down, 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 and just pretend it's not there. It doesn't work. I hate to burst your bubble, but it doesn't work. You have to face those parts of you. And there's different ways to do it. I'm always talking about different healing modalities on this podcast. So, one thing that works for one person may not work for another person. And I'm just going to give you a really quick example. So if you've tried one healing modality and it didn't work for you, it's okay. Try something different. Because like, for example, going to a therapist, you have to sit and you have to talk to them and you have to like process some stuff. And that is uncomfortable for a lot of people. There's other ways that you can potentially do it that doesn't require you to necessarily sit and verbalize all of it. Sound therapy for me has been really amazing because it offers you this clarity without you having to go and like dig, 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 dig. To me, it kind of like dissolves the stuff, it dissolves it without you having to like pick at it, which to me, I think is powerful, which is why obviously I'm in love with sound therapy and, created a whole business around it. So I'm biased, obviously, but really finding a healing modality to make sure that you're dealing with your stuff, and that's important. So self-awareness is identifying your stuff and then being willing to work through it. Okay, number 2 is nurturing your inner child. You have to love that inner child to where it doesn't feel like it needs the ego to protect it. So the more I nurture my inner child, the less I get offended about stuff that would trigger that inner child. So if your inner child is feeling nurtured and loved, then the ego doesn't need to protect it as much. There's always going to be stuff that comes up, but less and less will your ego feel the need to kick in. Really, really important. And nurturing the inner child, I feel like that's a whole nother podcast episode. So I don't want to spend too much time on that specifically, but really just loving those sensitive parts of you. I'm really sensitive around certain things and I know that. And so sometimes I just have to be like, it's okay. I got this. You got this, girl. Telling my inner child basically like, you got this. You were loved. You were supported. You were fully supported. Like sometimes you have to give yourself that pep talk and it is okay. It is okay. I think when I first started doing some of this work, I'm like, okay, if someone could see me, they're probably going to think I'm crazy. But it is okay to give yourself that pep talk. I always make it a point to tell people as well that they look great because a lot of times as children, we felt awkward, we felt uncomfortable, we felt unattractive. And, so I love giving people compliments because you never know whose inner child you are nurturing. So good. I just got chills when I said that. So anyway, if you have to give yourself a pep talk to nurture your inner child, to love your inner child, do it. Stand in that mirror and be like, yes, girl. Or, if you're a guy, but me, like, I'm like, yes, girl, you look gorgeous today. Like, whatever you need to do to make yourself feel good, do it. Do it. Do more of the things that are going to make you feel good. We spend so much time on things that make us sad and make us worry and make us disappointed. Focus and spend time on things that make you feel good. Okay. You guys know I get worked up. Okay. So that was number 2, nurture your inner child. Number 3 is communicate. Communication is so important. So you want to communicate to the people in your life in a healthy manner. So if someone did something that triggered you, rather than saying, you did this, you want to say, this made me feel. This made me feel this way, because they could have no idea that their actions triggered you. So rather than pointing the finger, because it's like, did they do this to hurt you, or were you just triggered by their actions? Really big difference, because sometimes people do things that we have no idea it's going to bother us. So you have to communicate, and communicate it in a non-confrontational way. This made me feel this way. So you're acknowledging that because I have this trigger, these certain actions are going to bother me. With the next person that doesn't have the same trigger, that same exact action may not bother them at all. So it's important that you communicate your desires and expectations, and communicate your triggers to the people in your life. And the same thing, you have to hold space for them to communicate their expectations and their desires, and don't assume. So important, so important. It's important that we hold that space, period, but really practicing that active listening and asking thought look, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is number 4. Asking thought-provoking questions. Get curious. And I mentioned this, well, not I, but we discussed this in an interview that I did with Antisa Jensen on emotional intelligence. If you haven't listened to the emotional intelligence episode, go listen to it, because it is one of my favorite episodes. It's such powerful information that if you really implement it into your life, it will change your relationships in your life, period. So asking thought-provoking questions, and she says, get curious in a conversation. So asking others questions to really get to know them, really start to understand their triggers and their past and their thought process, because we all are unique individuals. We all are unique beings that operate and think differently. So you can't expect people to process and think the same way you do. And the more questions you ask them and hold that space to listen to what they say, the more you're going to understand them, the deeper connection that you're going to have with them. Also, ask yourself questions. This is powerful. Ask yourself questions and see what comes up. Journal, ask yourself thought-provoking questions like, how do I feel about this? Why does this bother me? Why did this offend me? And ask a couple times, because sometimes we have like surface answers, you know? I really have to get some ear pods. I'm going to order them as soon as this podcast episode is over. Anyways, so ask thought-provoking questions to the people in your life and also to yourself. Number 5 is forgive. Forgive and let go. We hold on to so much resentment. And holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Okay. So we have to heal the pain and resentment. And one really powerful thing that kept coming up for me this last year is Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is a forgiveness story, basically. But basically what you're doing is saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. So Ho'oponopono, definitely look it up. It's a really powerful story. It's a huge thing. It kept coming up for me over and over and over the last year. So Ho'oponopono, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. Super powerful. And I know that this in the beginning was hard. I was raised by a mom that would never apologize, ever, ever. She will argue you down to the death and walk away before she ever admits to being wrong or apologizing. So I wasn't raised in a household where there was anyone saying I'm sorry. So it wasn't something that I was used to saying. And there was a time where I felt like you shouldn't say sorry. Like saying I'm sorry is a bad thing because, there's so many different perspectives. And so I had to really sit in this. I had to lean into like how I feel about this. And I believe that sometimes apologizing, even if you don't feel like you were wrong, but apologizing just to keep the peace is actually, it's the opposite of ego. It is this humbling act, and there's sometimes where, even if I wouldn't have changed my actions, I'm sorry that my action made you feel this way. I wasn't aware that you would be hurt in this situation. So I didn't do this to hurt you, but it did hurt you, and I'm sorry that it did. So sometimes apologizing is literally just from a place of like, you want to keep the peace. So I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And saying please forgive me, it doesn't mean like, oh, I was wrong, so please forgive me. Please forgive me for hurting you. I didn't intend to hurt you. I didn't do it on purpose, but I'm acknowledging that you were hurt by my actions. So I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. It is a level of awareness, a level of peace, a level of emotional intelligence that is really, really powerful, really, really powerful, and really uncomfortable in the beginning. So I had to go through, I sat with this, you guys. I had to go through and really oponopono a lot of people in my life. Like I had to forgive a lot of people in my life because there was so much resentment I was holding on to. And literally when I did, I almost feel like doing these exercises. So I told you, like, my mom as a kid, like, never said she was proud of me. And it was the thing I wanted, like, so much to make her proud. And after doing all of these exercises and really sitting in this Ho'oponopono and like, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me for my actions. Thank you. And it's like, once you heal those parts, it's almost like the energy is so strong and powerful. I have chills right now that the people just, they know energetically. And one day, like, my mom was just like, I'm proud of you. And I'm just like, for what? Because it wasn't like I healed that part of my inner child that was craving that, and it released the resistance. And then it happened. And it was almost like, like, waited all this time for this and now I have it. And like, it's just like, because I healed that part of me. And it's a really powerful, powerful thing to nurture your inner child and forgive the people that have hurt you in your past, have hurt you, in your childhood. And sometimes, like, people go through like divorces and they carry that resentment with them. So sometimes it's not your inner child. Sometimes it may be like your early adult. Like, do you need to nurture who you were as like in your early adulthood, like really acknowledging like, okay, this was a painful time in my life. And I have to, here is the second part of number 5, forgiving others, but also forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself. There are so many times we hold on to resentment and pain that others have caused us, but we blame ourselves. We blame ourselves and we hold that resentment. And that's a huge reason for like ego to kick in. But it is important, almost the most important, for you to forgive yourself. So powerful, you guys. So powerful. So those are 5 ways to not let ego in the way of the success, relationships, and happiness that you desire. Let me do a quick recap. Number 1, self-awareness. Be aware of your triggers. Super important. Number 2 is nurture your inner child. And maybe you have to nurture your young adult self, so maybe it's not just the inner child. Whatever that painful time in your life was, nurture that part of you. If you were 27 years old and this was a painful time, nurture your 27-year-old self. So when I say inner child, it doesn't have to be childhood per se. So number 3 is communicate. Practice active listening. Get curious in your conversations. Ask people questions about themselves. Ask yourself questions. Get to know yourself better. Number 4 is, I combine number 3 and number 4. So number 3 is communicate. Number 4 is ask thought-provoking questions. And number 5 is forgive and let go. Oh, Ponopono, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And most importantly, forgive yourself. This is some powerful shit right here, guys. It is some powerful stuff, and it will improve your life if you actually implement this into your life. You will find more fulfillment. You will find deeper connections. And this is the work that you have to do if that's what you crave. There are some people that don't want it. They are happy and content in their shallow surface life and relationships. That's fine. This podcast is not for them. This podcast is for the people that want deeper connections. This podcast is for the people that want substance and depth and those connections that are going to last a lifetime because you're growing together, and they want relationships that touch their souls, that depth that people crave. This is the work that you have to do to have those relationships and situations in your life. Not everybody wants that, and that is okay. This podcast is not for them. This podcast is for the people who are craving substance and depth. And this work is not only going to help you connect to others, but it's going to help you connect to yourself. And that's what really is the most powerful. So I hope you found value in this. I literally, like, my body is just like all the tingles. So I know that this is something that if you implement it in your life, and that's the thing, like, I'm in an arena with you, I am in the arena with you, fighting to be the best version of myself. I'm peeling back the layers, and there's always more work to do. It's not like, okay, I'm going to do this, and this, and then poof, everything's amazing. It's a continuous effort. But just like you train anything, if you, like, I build sales funnels. When I first started building sales funnels, it was so much work. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. You're working out in a gym, lifting weights. The more you lift the weights, the easier it becomes. When you start jogging, you may be only able to jog a mile or two. And the more you do it, the longer you're able to jog at a time. So it takes practice to retrain our brains, to reprogram our subconscious for success, for happiness, for connection, for positive thinking, for our best case scenario. We're trained to focus on the worst case scenario. We're trained to focus on the pain. You have the ability to retrain your mind, reprogram your subconscious to focus on the happiness, to focus on the joy, to focus on the excitement. And when you do that, you attract more of it to you. And that is the goal. That's what you want. So, you guys, I love this podcast so much. I'm sending you so much gratitude for listening to me. Just pour my heart and soul into this, because I've seen the change that it's made in my own life. And if you're new to this podcast, like, a lot of people think like, oh, I came from like super amazing family, wealthy, all the things. Someone said to me once, it's easy for you because you have money. Like, I was born in the Bronx, New York. I was born in a hood, and I have done the work. I said, you know what? This is not my story. No one in my family owns a business. No one in my family traveled internationally until I started. So, like, I looked at my situation and I said, this is not my story. And I rewrote it. And I said, okay, this is who I want to be. And I did the work. There's a lot of people that just stay in their situations because they don't want to do the work. But I know that's not you, M&Ms, because you're doing the work, because you deserve, your worth, and you know that you deserve the life that you desire. You deserve the relationship you desire. You deserve the career and business you desire. You deserve the lifestyle that you desire. Okay? Okay. So that You guys, I gotta go. I have to go order me some ear pods. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are having an amazing day. I hope you found a lot of value in this episode. And until next time, love and light.
Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.